Hi guys, this session we are going to learn how to extract a motif from somewhere and make a print out of it, and maybe you want to insert it somewhere. So this is going to cover the absolute basics of Adobe Photoshop. I am using CC 2019. Alright, so you go to file and you create a new file, or you can use Control plus N as your keyboard shortcut keys, and then you select any page size. So if it's something which is standard like A3 or A4, you can switch from here to the print tab and you'll find all these standard page sizes: A3, A4, A5, whatever you want to work on. I am going to select A4. Or say you want to maybe mention the page sizes yourselves, so you're going to change the units from here: inches, centimeters, it's up to you. Maybe I want the width to be 8 and the height to be 12 or whatever it is. So this is going to be a custom page size. Remember to keep the resolution to 300 pixels per inch, because this keeps the quality of whatever you're making nice and apt. Anything lesser than this is going to give you a very bad quality picture that is going to pixelate. Alright, so you can change the orientation from here, keeping it portrait or landscape. Then you want to put any name to the file and then simply click on create. Alright, so this is going to be our artboard, and on the top you can find the menu bar and the control bar. On the left you have this toolbox, and in case you want to find any toolbox, you can go to window from the menu bar and you can find it here. So you're going to work a lot on layers. So all you need to do is, if you're not able to find layers on your Photoshop page, you can click on layers and here you have it. You can drag it and place it. Okay, so you see right now we do not have a lot of layers, it's just a background layer that we have. Next, I have kept this motif copied. Control, you can copy it from internet, or you can click or drag it once you've downloaded it. I press Control V to paste. Okay, the moment I paste it, you can see in the layers, a new layer got added. Then you can change the visibility of the layers by clicking on this eye-like icon. You see, hiding the background or hiding the layer, you can click over here again to make the layer visible. All right, I'm going to hide the background so that we're able to see what exactly we have in this layer, and we'll have to remove all the white area, and then maybe we can copy paste this and create a printout of it. All right, so very basic. Control plus 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 is going to help you zoom in. Control minus helps you zoom out. Control 0 fits the entire page to screen. Alternatively, you can also press Alt and then scroll up, scroll down from your mouse to zoom in and zoom out. And again, Control 0 helps you fit entire thing to page. Once you've zoomed in and you want to maybe scroll somewhere, of course, we have the scroll bar, or you want to pan the page, you can press your spacebar key. The moment you press spacebar, you see this icon, the hand-like icon, and I click and drag and I'll be able to pan the page, or I can move the page anywhere. Control 0 to fit the entire thing to screen. So the very first tool that you see in the toolbox is the move tool, which is going to help you click and drag and move anything anywhere. While doing this, if you use your Alt key, say Alt, click and drag, it helps you create copies. Once you create a copy, you can also see a new layer being added with the name layer 1 copy. You want to change the names, you can double click and change the name. This really helps when you have a lot of layers and then you want to figure out what is in which layer. This really helps. I don't really want this, so I'm going to click on this layer, and on the bottom right option of the layer, you can delete the layer. Yes. Okay, so all click and drag. Using the move tool, it's going to help you create a copy. Next, you want to resize this. You can use Control T. Control T. T for transformations. So the moment you press Control T, you'll be able to see this blue bounding box. Keep the cursor on a corner, you'll see a resizing arrow. You can resize. If you're using CS6 or any CS version of Photoshop, you might have to press Shift key while resizing so that the proportions remain the same. All right, here, if I press, this is CC, and if while resizing I press Shift, it really loses the proportion. So you can either increase it height-wise or widen it. I choose to release the Shift key and increase it proportionally. Keep your cursor a little away from the corner. You get this rotation arrow, click and drag. So you'll be able to rotate. You can also here put the angle of rotation, which is 91 degree for now. Maybe I can put it 45 degrees and press enter. So you can also put the angle of rotation in here and you'll be able to rotate it. Right click. See, all this we're doing while we're still in our transformation command. We pressed Control T, right? Okay, flip horizontal, flip vertical. While right clicking in your transformation command, you'll be able to flip. Once you're happy with the transformation, like the size, the rotation, and everything, you're done. You can press enter to come out of the transformation tab. And now you see on the corners, I'm no longer able to see that resizing icon or the rotation icon, or even if I right click, I don't really see flipping options because Control T, we are out of the transformations command. Control T again, and you'll be able to do all of that again. Once you're done, you're supposed to press enter. All about transformations. Next, these three are going to be your selection tools that I'm going to quickly cover. Rectangular marquee tool, you take this tool and you click and drag, you'll be able to make rectangular selections. Now these selections, you can fill color in them or you can delete some particular area as well. Okay, if you want to fill color, you'll have to press Control Backspace. I'm able to fill white color because on the left bottom of your toolbox, if you see, there are these two colors, background color and the foreground color. The background color is white. Control Backspace fills background color. I can double click here, select any color, okay, and then Control Backspace. Okay, so you can see I have the color filled in within the selection. Control Z, Z is for undo, going step backwards, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. If you want to remove selection, Control D, deselect, Control D. Okay, so this makes a rectangular selection, and if I press delete, you see it's going to delete whatever is there within the selection. Okay, Control Z, Control D. Now while deleting, just make sure you are working on the right layer. Right layer as in I want to delete some area from here. I'll have to make sure I click on this layer. If by chance I've clicked on the background layer and then I try to make a selection and I delete it, it's not working. It's ideally working, but I'm not able to see any of it because the wrong layer is selected. So it's probably deleting it from the background layer. Okay, so you have to make sure you selecting the layer is very easy. You just need to click over the layer and then I press delete and you're good to go. All right, Control Z, undo, Control D, deselect. Then there's more to this rectangular marquee tool. One is, of course, when I'm making selections, you must notice it selects something new every time and the previous selection is gone. Say you want to keep adding to the previous selection, you need to turn this option from the control bar on. You see add to selection. So right now we are on new selection. So every time I'm making a selection, it's a new selection. The moment I switch to add to selection mode, it will start adding to my previous selection. I'm just clicking and dragging. Okay, and if I switch to subtract from selection, it's going to subtract. See, it doesn't really work in empty area where you have no selection. Subtract from selection only works where you have some selection, and then you click and drag, you'll be able to subtract from that particular selection. Then you have intersect. So the only part that remains intersected will remain and rest of it will go. Okay, so we have new selection for making new selections, add to selection to keep adding to the previous selections, subtract to keep subtracting from the selection which you already have. Okay, now all this while, okay, I have this selection and I press delete. Control D is for deselect. Make sure you are on the right layer when you're deleting. Okay, you see the edges? We have a feather option. You see, softens the edges of selection. If I put certain value over here, say 20. Now I make a new selection, and I make a new selection. Now I press delete and Control D to deselect. Do you see a difference? So this kind of softens the edges of your selection and then deletes it, whereas this one with no absolute feather value gives you very sharp edgy corners. Alright, so in case you want something like this, you can try putting the feather value, or you can simply make sure the feather value has been set to 0. Control D again to deselect. Alright, when you hover your cursor around this rectangle tool and you see this tiny arrow, you just need to click. You'll find more selection options, which are going to be very similar. Like if I take elliptical marquee tool and make selections, it's going to make selection in the shape of an ellipse. And all the other things remain the same. Add to selection or feather, subtract to selection, everything just remains the same. It's just selection is in the form of an ellipse. And you can also use a combination, like I've made some selections in the form of circle, and then I take my rectangular tool and I take add to selection. Then you see, so I can also use combination of selection tools. Okay, these are good tools, but they're mostly making polygons or geometrical selection for you. They might not help you with selecting curves. You know, maybe I've selected this part and I try to delete. Okay, I've deleted the main area. Now I want to keep this flower motif. I want to delete everything else that is there in the background. So or maybe I can take subtract from selection and subtract this area. Okay, this is though not the best tool, but we're still trying to do it. Okay, so if I'm pressing delete right now, the motif itself gets deleted, whereas I want to delete everything other than the motif or everything other than the selection and the current selection. So I can use Control Shift and I, or you can right click, select inverse. Select inverse and then delete. Deletes, you know, it basically selected everything other than what you had selected, and then you press delete to remove whatever was selected, like other than the selection. Okay, Control D again, Control Z, Control Z, Control D. I'll quickly again explain you. If I have something selected in a circle, I delete this, it will delete whatever is there in the selection. Control Z. If I select inverse, right click, select inverse, and then I press delete, it deletes everything other than what you had selected. Okay, Control D, Control Z again. Okay, so I am going to skip this single row marquee and column marquee tool because I they're not going to be useful. They just select a row of pixels and or a column of pixels, and then you'll be able to delete them. Okay. Next important tool might be the lasso tool, because click and drag you'll be able to very finely, like it's just a freehand thing that you can do. I have the click on my mouse held, and then I'm dragging around the corners of the motif that I want to preserve, that I want to select. Done. And then I can press delete, or if I press delete right away, it's going to delete the motif itself. I'm going to right click and select inverse, then delete. Yeah, this was better than all the options, at least for selecting something like this, right? Control D, Control Z, Z, Control D. Next option. Okay, for this as well, if there's something to add to your previous selection, say I started like this, maybe the moment you release the click no with the lasso tool, it's going to automatically join the first point and the last point with a straight line. See, so you don't really have to worry about it. You can take your add to selection, start selecting from where you left, and it's going to add it to your previous selection, and that's exactly what we want, right? Done. And till this part. Okay, so add it to the selection. You want to subtract something? Subtract from selection and quickly start subtracting whatever part of it you do not want. And there are a lot more, but yeah, this is how you can do it, and then select inverse and delete. Okay, so you can also use add to selection in a similar fashion. It's going to be for all the selection tools. It's just the kind of selections they make which is different. Polygonal lasso tool will help you make polygons. See, click, 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 click. You double click somewhere, it selects and it connects the first and the last point. Control D. Very polygonal. It's not at all in curves. So again, for something which is in polygons, this is going to be very helpful. Or you want to make, you can make polygonal selections and keep filling colors and make some abstract patterns, such geometric patterns. Okay, so very polygonal. Not of very much use, at least for this motif. Again, add to selection and subtract to selection feather, everything is going to work for it. Magnetic lasso tool, Control D, Control plus 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 to zoom in, spacebar, click and drag to pan the page. So magnetic lasso tool, click and keep dragging. So I've left I've no more pressed the left mouse key, and I am slowly moving around the edges, and then I click again. So add to selection and then click. Go slow, okay? If you rush this tool, this is what happens. Not that this cannot be undone. You can keep pressing delete and move your cursor back, back, back. Delete, 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 and keep moving your cursor back. And if you go slow, it's going to be really perfect with the edges that have, clean pixels. This is really a helpful tool. Okay, better than the rest of them. And I have to click very less number of times. Make sure you have zoomed in. Okay, so let me just keep it till this much. Select inverse and delete. See, so perfect. Control Z, Control D. Add to selection, subtract this from selection works for this, and this as well. If you by chance double click somewhere, it's going to connect the first and the last point. Okay, so nothing to worry about. You can again start with the selection and keep adding it to the previous one, and subtract from selection to subtract whatever extra you have. whatever you do not want or whatever you want to discard. Okay, Control D to deselect. Magnetic lasso, then coming on to quick selection tool, which is very easy. You just need to click and drag. See, it will quickly select. Click and drag on the black area, it selects everything black. Control D. Click and drag over the white area. You see it has selected almost entirely all of the white area and the ones that you want. Do you see this black area also got selected? So I'll take subtract from selection and I'll run this tool over the black area. Okay, you can use your Alt right click. Press Alt and right click together and move your cursor up and down to be able to resize this tool. So I have smaller areas where I might be needing a smaller brush, and a bigger brush usually helps you, when you want to do it in the bigger areas. Control D, selection, and just the white. So you see, within seconds, we have selected mostly. Control Z, Control Shift I to select inverse and delete. I'm so sorry. Okay, in this case, I was not supposed to press Control Shift and I because I've automatically selected. See, I selected white area, which is the background, so I can delete right away. Okay, still some of it is left, but it was faster compared to magnetic lasso. Control D, Control Z, Control D. Okay, next tool, magic wand tool. Click on the white area and all the white area is selected and delete. Even faster. Now there are a few drawbacks. Okay, add to selection, Control D, and subtract from selection is going to work for this as well, but there's a limitation. I would really want you guys to comment in the comment section and let me know what do you feel like. If you have magic wand, you've clearly seen it makes your things so fast. It's so easy to select or deselect using these magic wand or even the quick selection tool. Then why are the other tools required, and why do you feel, I mean, there are limitations of these tools as well, quick selection, magic wand. So I would really want you guys to comment what do you feel are going to be the drawbacks. So I will quickly add the background area that I want to delete and delete. Control D. We are left with the motif. And I'll take the eraser and I guess maybe even this is going to work. Lasso tool. I don't want this either. It's really up to you, whatever you want to keep. For now, for my print, I am going to keep only this. Okay, you can change the color by going to image, adjustment, hue, saturation. Usually lightening and darkening and changing the saturation and hue changes the color, but for black and white things, make sure you turn this colorize option on and then try to do it so you'll be able to change the colors. Okay, so you can take whatever color you want to, any kind of lightness you want to saturate it or desaturate it. Click on OK. Okay, so a little part of it was left. I will take Control T and resize it. And we'll further very quickly remove whatever was not. This part of it was basically outside the page, so we couldn't really see it. Nothing to worry about. Delete and Control D. Now you can start copy pasting it. Alt click and drag. Control T. Rotate it. however you want to place it, you can. Control T again. See, keep focusing on the layers. You'll see how the layers keep adding. And at some point, I might want to, copy paste the thing. So, which is more than like collectively, I want to select all four of them. So I will select all these layers, click on first layer, press the shift key, click on the last. So all four of them selected, all click and drag. So you'll be able to, do it for all of them together. All click and drag. Arrange it. You can spend time figuring out what is the best kind of repetition. Okay, guys, this will not be seamless. I might make another video for how to make seamless prints, but this is just extracting a motif and creating a print. That's it. Always press enter once you're done with your transformations. Remember to do that, or otherwise you'll not be able to do anything else until you exit the transformation command. Okay, I guess I'm okay, satisfied and happy with however it looks like. And in the end, I would want to add a solid color to the background. So I told you, if you have some kind of selection and then you press Control Backspace, it's going to fill color inside the, inside that area. If I press Control Backspace right away and there's no selection, let me first make a layer. You can create a new layer. Do you see layers at the extreme bottom? I have create a new layer. So you see layer 1 got added, and here I'm going to Control Backspace so that fills the color. We still had some white area that I didn't see. Okay, not a problem. Okay, so Control Backspace. If nothing is selected, it's going to fill color on the entire page. Also, you can drag this, you can click and drag the layers. Whatever layer is on the top, you'll be able to see it on the front. So if my color layer was extremely at the top, you might not see the motif. Not that they're not there, but you'll have to change the order of the color just by clicking and dragging it below all your motifs. There are a lot of layers. If you're happy with it, select all of them using the shift key. Okay, when you're pressing shift key, you see all the layers in between, they get selected. Not every time you're going to have them together. So maybe you can also use control key. Click on one layer, control, and keep clicking on layers. So it will, it's individually selecting multiple layers instead of selecting everything which was in between. So in case they're not adjacent to each other, you might try pressing control key to select multiple individual layers. If selected all of them, control E is going to help you merge them all into one. So this is how you can create a print. Let me also merge it inside. Okay, so even the color is in one layer. Now, I am going to take this to this page. Let me resize it. And we'll try to put it inside the top. Okay, not a very good print though, but I just want to show you how this is done. I think I'm going to put a little more color. Now see guys, remember when you're using control backspace, if I do it right now in the same layer without creating a new layer, everything will be gone. Control backspace. This is why we have layers. See, the color is in the same layer over the motif. So it's gone. I won't be able to change the order to back. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. I need to make a new layer, then Control backspace. So when I click it and drag it below the previous layer, it's going to be at the back. Okay, remember this. Always create a new layer when you're trying to fill color. How do we make a new layer? Right bottom, second last option, bottom of your layers toolbox, create a new layer. Okay. Okay, Control E to merge it with the layer below. And I'm going to select this part. I'm going to Control X. Control X is for cut. Then we take any selection tool to select where we want to put it. Okay, and then you press edit, paste, special paste into, is going to paste it inside it. Control Z. If you simply use Control V, this is how it looks like. So we are going to cut it and then paste it inside like this. Then you can also use Control T if you want to rotate. You see, you can rotate or resize it further or move it. Press enter. One little tip to be able to see the details of the sketch, you can go to your layers and there are certain filters. Instead of normal, try multiplying it or darkening it, so you'll also be able to see the folds or whatever you have in the sketch. Okay, and this is in a new layer. There are more tools like burn and dodge tools that you can use to shade and make it look more realistic. And maybe to present this, you can create some kind of a rectangle in the background. So whenever we do Control backspace, we're going to create a new layer. The color on the background, I would like to have a neutral color. Okay, don't worry about this. I'm going to drag it down. And even this layer where I have the illustration, you see there's some white thing. So I can take my magic wand and select the white area and delete. Control D. More presentation ideas, maybe you can try to, let's merge them all into one. Okay, one is pressing Control E, which merges the current layer with the below layer, or Control Shift Alt E. Control Shift Alt E together. Do you see when I press this? I have a new layer which has all the visible layers merged into one. So you can also preserve the individual layers. Maybe you want to edit it later, and then you'll also have one layer with all of the visible layers merged. Okay, so while doing this, just make sure whatever you want to merge or you want to bring into one should be visible. Say if I would have kept this now, Control Shift Alt E. Now let me hide everything else. So even the gray background was merged. Okay, so it really depends how do you want to do it. Just make sure when you are merging them all into one, all the visible layers, whatever you want to merge should be visible. How do we make it visible or invisible? This I like icon. Okay, so Control Z, Z, Z. I really didn't want to merge the background, so I am going to hide the background and then Control Shift and E. Control Shift Alt E. I'm sorry. Okay, so individual layers hidden. This is there. This is there. I can right click and duplicate this layer, or you can also do Alt click and drag. Why am I going to do this? And then Control T, resize it. This is just for kind of you want to present it better. It's an optional thing that you can do. Press enter, take it behind, and this layer you can make it transparent. From where you change the filters like normal and multiplying, you also have an opacity option that you can reduce to make it transparent. So you see, we just made it a little more presentable. I guess either of the things should be there. I can skip the gray part and I can just making the white background visible. This also looks good. Or I can keep it simply like this, however it suits you. Okay, so yeah, this is how you can extract a motif, create some kind of a print, and then insert it in some area. There are more ways of inserting something. Like you see, I can also make a circle, like paste the print. This is my print. I can make a circle or whatever selection it is and select inverse and then delete. This is also basically, um, inserting something into a kind of a shape. So this also works, but I prefer the paste into option more because this point, when I do this and then I try to resize, the complete thing gets resized. Okay, so I just prefer doing it by using the paste into option, which is really easy. You just need to make sure you have copied a print and then see if there's nothing copied. This might not be activated, this might be grayed out. That would simply mean, see right now also this is grayed out, paste into, because there's no selection to paste inside into. I make some selection, it has some selection to paste into, and then only I'll be able to see it. The layer is also hidden. Okay, so the layer that you want to work on should be selected and visible. Second, there should be a selection. Third, you should have something copied. All three things should meet for you to be able to paste inside some kind of a selection. All right, so this is it about the very basic session of Photoshop. Of course, there's so much more to it. This was just a basic introduction.